Hi there, I'm Jim Raffle,
And I'm Shelby Sapusik.
and this is the Jim and Shelby Show, All Things Print Podcast. What are we talking about today, Shelby?
Well, something that you were actually on site dealing with last week. I'm going to let you start because you were there firsthand, so you can describe it a little bit better, and I'll chime in as I can.
So there were really two things that caught my attention,
Hmm.
and I think they're both related to the difference between color and appearance. And a lot of people think those two things are the same, and they're actually two different areas, right? You can have two things that are the same color but have a
Hmm.
different appearance. Let me give you a quick example. Many of our customers print with flatbed UV printers. They'll print on acrylic. Sometimes they'll print on the top surface of that acrylic, so the ink is the first thing that your eye sees. And other times they'll print on the reverse or second surface of the acrylic and put the white ink then behind that. So whatever you're seeing, you have to look all the way through the acrylic. The light has to bounce back at you. The surface of that acrylic is glossy versus most UV, not all UV, has a bit of a matte finish when it's normally printed. And
Sure.
so while the color may be the same, the appearance is different. And this was a client who was doing exactly those two things. They were printing on the first surface and the second surface, and they were saying, well, why don't these look the same? And I'm like, well, they actually do have a common visual appearance. And I know I just used the word appearance,
Mhm.
but they really had a common color with a different appearance is what was really happening. And it took a little while, and we changed our environmental conditions, the lighting, the way the light was hitting it. We actually hit both pieces with a backlight. And that's when it really they were like, oh, if you hit both pieces with a backlight, they really look almost the same. And I'm like, yeah, because you're canceling out the gloss, you're kind of canceling out a lot of the refraction from the acrylic in both cases. And so that was like half the equation. The other half, which you and I have run into numerous times before, they started comparing the samples to what they had printed with their previous profile. And by the way, their new profile is G7 plus compliant to
Hmm.
targeted
Okay.
um, to CRPC 6. So it's a known good print condition. And not like submitted for qualification or certification, but a quick test using spec check, in fact. And so I knew that what we were printing with the new profile accurately represented their digital file. But they're like, well, no, no, we want it to look like this. And I'm like, well, then use your old profile. Use your legacy condition. Well,
Mhm.
can't you make this profile look like that? And I'm like, I could, but that's not what we talked about coming in to do, because doing that kind of profile matching can take 2 or 3 days, a lot of trial and error. It's also, I don't think you want to do it. And so I had to explain to them that I could always get them back to the same known good print condition, G7 plus, Grackle CR, or CRPC 6. And I
Hmm.
told them I could do that time and time again, and I could even do it on different printers of the same manufacturer and different manufacturers. And they started to get that part. And then I said, and by the way, if we looked at this on a color calibrated monitor, you would most likely see that what we just printed is much closer to your digital image than what you printed. And so they, without calibrating their monitor, they grabbed the two and they're like, well, neither one of them looks the same. And I was like, hold on. And so I got them to download TrueHue, the monitor calibration app
Right.
that we have talked about before on this podcast. We calibrated their very inexpensive, whatever monitor it was. It's probably a $100 monitor. And they could not. That's one of the cool things about TrueView is that last step where you can see, you can click between here's what my monitor is and here's what my new profile is. They
Mhm.
could not believe how significant the difference was, and they were even more blown away by how close the calibrated monitor was to the prints that we had just made. And they're like, "Oh, this is actually what we've been trying to do for years." And I was like, that's what I've been trying to explain to you all day long. But it was like the show and tell. It was the
Mhm.
show and tell that actually sealed the deal. And that's when they actually went as far as to ask me to record a video with them that they could send to their client to explain all of this. And then he made his own explainer video. I watched him make it about how to calibrate a monitor with TrueHue, and then he was showing the difference and how it matched up. And so, I mean, I don't. This is kind of different than a lot of our podcasts because I really felt like this had to be shared because we always talk about education, right? And I know that for the last month of your life, you have been head down working on an educational module for iLearning Plus.
Hmm.
And what I just talked about is one of the things covered in that module. It's also covered in the G7 Plus training. And it was so reinforcing of the fact that this industry lacks a certain level of consistent baseline color knowledge. I don't know why that is. I don't see that in other industries like I see it in print. Um, and maybe some of it is these are new people to print, right? These are
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean well, I know in this particular the case of this client, they had no print background. They saw a market opportunity and they figured they could start making something they were having someone else make for them and they just became printers, right? And very smart people, very willing to learn. Once I explained it to them, they got it. But I'm thinking of another client that I've worked with in the last 2 or 3 weeks who reached back out because I talked to him about our Confident Color uh, online recorded session. And just so everybody knows, if you're a Colorcasters client who has worked with us since January 1 of this year, that training, the $275 Confident Color online recorded training is available to you at no cost for 12 months.
Hmm.
And that's what he was reaching out. He said, "Hey, can I get access to that?" And it's the same thing by being on site with him for a couple days this year. We talked a lot about color, and I said, you can get that in Confident Color, which I told you can have for free. And he's like, yeah, yeah, get me signed up. I'm ready now. And so there is a thirst for this knowledge. I just don't know how sometimes I don't know how we break through the wall of people believing that they know everything they need to know about color, and they just don't.
Well, and everybody's different and they're on their own unique color management journey, and
Mhm.
I find that when I'm training, I have to think the big picture and say, okay, people in the audience could be people who have just like your client you're talking about who just decided to start printing recently. And then there's other people who have been in the game for a really long time, but hey, guess what? Technology and standards and all these other things have changed. We have G7 Plus now and not just G7. I mean, and so there's those types of things. But I also believe that people just learn differently. Seeing is believing, and I think you ran into that last week at your client site until they actually saw the difference on the monitor, and until you actually put that backlit behind the two different acrylic pieces. They just didn't know.
Mhm.
And, for me, you were telling me, oh, yeah, the way that the ink lays down this acrylic was more like a gloss, and the other one was more like a matte. So my mind immediately went, well, the gloss is going to have higher contrast and more saturation of the ink, wouldn't it? And then the matte would be a little bit more, let's call it muted, I guess, because of just, so to me, yes, those are two very different printing processes, and they can, have consistent color, similar color, however you want to say it, but they're still going to look a little bit differently because it's two different printing processes. And they might as well
Well,
be, be on
it's
different
same print process, different viewing condition.
different viewing conditions, sorry. But you know what I mean? I mean, if it was different substrates, you would have that same kind of phenomenon. And, people think that, I can print it on wood as well as white vinyl and it's going to be exactly the same. And they're just not thinking past the ink and they're not thinking to the substrate. And we talk about, substrate being the fifth important color all the time.
Yeah.
And I think you ran into that a little bit. I think with the monitor, when you were talking about that, something that we are doing in iLearning Plus now is we're doing some interactive
Hmm.
sections in there. And so I had three different ones in the course I was working on, and one of them was monitor. And I took the how to calibrate a monitor guide. Now I did this not with TrueHue, but the uh, I1 Profiler version of doing that. And I took the how-to guide that we give to our clients when and I made that a flip book.
Hmm.
So instead of walking them through screen by screen and trying to explain it to them online, here's a flip book you can download. You can take it home and, as a PDF, if you need a PDF version, email me. But instead of me walking them through and trying to talk them through it, here's a visual screen by screen. Some people are just visual learners too. So I don't know. I mean, I don't think you can. go out there and say, well, you should have this color, this amount of colored knowledge. You should be here if you're doing printing. Well, some people are here and some people are here, and we have to meet them at whatever level they're on and try to get them up here somewhere, or at least to an understanding where they understand the variables in printing affect the color and what do they need to do throughout the process to get where they want to go. And I like what you said about legacy profiles too. Sometimes you have to give up those legacy profiles if you want to move forward, because that legacy profile, while it might be working, they are going to have a harder time than they would have going back to the known good print condition that you developed with that new G7 targeted profile.
Yeah, and what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna see if this works. I mean, this is crazy to even try this, but I'm over here. I was trying to get my true hue to oh, let's see. I'm gonna see if I can do a really quick monitor calibration so that I can show everybody what it looks like. So I'm calibrating my other monitor, and if this all works.
I know what you're trying to show anyway. When we go through the I1 profiler version of calibrating a monitor, and I remember there was this one client when I had to go in and I think I did maybe 15 or 16 monitors over the course of a couple days, and the designers would sit next to me, and they're all working on Macs and they get their new MacBooks and everything or their desktops, and when they turn it on, it's set to the widest and brightest that it can be, but that's not how we view color. So when I go through the calibration, and if they're sitting next to me and you see that flip after the profile is applied to the monitor, they're like, whoa, what happened to my screen? How terrible is this? And what happened to my bright, pretty? And I was like, well, that's not how we view color. And I think that's what you're trying to show here with TrueView is how it adjusts the monitor to how we better see color.
Are you ready?
Sure.
That was a very good filler. So you
Thank
can
you.
see it, right?
I can.
So this is the new profile.
Uh-huh.
So this would be like what they experienced. And then
Okay.
can you see how it changed? It's
Yeah.
not it's not well the problem is I did a previously calibrated monitor.
Oh, okay.
So but I don't
It's
know so
it's
it
not
did get
significant.
it's more there's quite a brightness difference for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I can
Um
see.
but you can at least see you can see
Right.
a change, right? Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I can see it
So
change.
it would have been what I should have done is had it select an uncalibrated profile
You would,
before,
yeah, sure.
but you can still see there is a difference, especially if you look
Very
at the
slight.
flesh tones. So
Yeah.
see how bright, at least for me, the flesh tones look very bright here and a little bit more muted here. Actually, I kind of like the new one, so I'm gonna actually say use new,
Okay.
and then I'm gonna have it not no, don't ever remind me.
Right.
Um,
This is true here, and it's showing you the steps
yep.
that you would go through. It's a very simple process, and if you're a creative or a designer, this is a good solution without having to go out and buy a spectrophotometer, and it's a good price point.
Yeah, I think it's $40 for a year,
Mhm.
and that licenses your smartphone. Because the way I was doing this is I was taking pictures of my monitor with my iPhone,
Mhm.
and so the license is for your smartphone, and then you can install the app that you were seeing on the screen. You can install that on as many computers as you technically want to, and you can then use your iPhone to, if you have 5 or 6 monitors in your little shop you can calibrate all 5 or 6, and they can be all the way from, an expensive BenQ like I was working on here to an inexpensive $100 monitor, and you're going to get benefit at every level. So yeah, and Shelby's right. I liked what she said at one point. Seeing is believing, I think is what you said.
Yeah. Mhm.
And that was really what happened. That's what happened last week that we were trying to come up with an idea for what to talk about today. I'm not going to lie. And that was like I was trying to figure out how do I quantify that, and seeing is believing is exactly what happened last week.
Mhm.
And it was a pretty cool experience to watch. I literally felt like I watched that light bulb go on in his head when we did the monitor calibration. It was like he was blown away. It was like
Mhm.
it was like his mind, what do they say? Mind blown.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, so
All right.
that's this week. But next week, or not next week, next episode. is going to be pretty cool because it's going to be a trade show episode.
Yes, we're going to ISA Expo in Orlando, so we'll be walking around. We're walking the show. We're not going to be there for the entire show just because we're very busy people. Uh,
Aren't
oh yeah,
we?
this is a very very busy 4 weeks for us. So uh, I think we're traveling pretty much every week. So yeah, we're gonna be there for about a day and a half, I guess. So about half the show. Where I've pinpointed some places that we're gonna go. I've set up some meetings for us. So I think we'll have a good show and we'll have a good podcast from it.
Yeah, you're more likely to see Shelby than I. But I will. I've got some remote work I have to take care of on Wednesday, and I'm not sure how much I can be there Thursday. I got to take care of something else in the state of Florida as well on Thursday. But yeah, we got a lot going on. You are actually right about that. We'll be up in the Northeast the following week, next week, and then out in the Pacific Northwest the week after that, and then someone's going to Italy.
It's not me.
It's not you.
No.
It's me.
Yeah.
It's me. I'm going to Italy.
Always is.
And then we're busy after that too. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff going on. So yeah, a lot of educational opportunities coming up too. So yep. I think June, speaking of G7 Plus, in June, I am teaching a class open to the public in the Minnesota area or
Okay.
Minneapolis area. It will be at SPSI. So it will be focused on DTF. Now, every G7 Plus class is the same, but our on-site demo, the equipment we have to work with there will be DTF. So if you are into DTF for shirts and things like that, that's the process that we'll be doing our live demonstrations with, and that's only been done one other time last year at SPSI. So hopefully we'll keep doing it there about once a year. But it was a very well attended class. I think because of that, it's a unique opportunity to learn how to apply G7 to DTF, which some people think can't be done, and I'm here to tell you it can be.
Talent management can be applied everywhere.
And you might even be there, but we'll see. So um,
It's
it's
looking
possible.
more and more likely,
It's
but
possible. So
hopefully it's
more to be revealed. So, all right. Well, we will see you in a couple of weeks with a ISA episode, ISA Sign Expo. And until then, have a great day.